Welcome to Ninja Vibes, the matched voice of Nigerians' welfare and security. Here, we analyze the issues that shape our nation from the streets to the system. We uncover the truths, share solutions, and highlight best practices from across the world. No faces, no bias, not politically inclined to any party or individual, no ethnic coloration, and no religious undertone. Just facts, insights, and the drive to make Nigeria better. Ninja Vibes. Real talk, real solutions for every Nigerian. Hello, my people. Welcome. Before we go anywhere else, I want to plant one word in your head because everything today comes back to it. The word is system. By definition, a set of interconnected parts working together as a whole, where a failure in one part affects all the others. Now keep that in mind. What you're about to see is not a single failure. It's a multiple failures happening at once. And that's why school kidnapping in Nigeria was never something one person, one agency, or one policy could fix. It's a systemic problem, and we will return to that. One more thing before we start. Our focus today is one specific crime: school kidnapping, not insecurity in Nigeria generally. So put that context in mind. Let me start with a question. Who remembers the Boniyadi boys? Most of us won't. It's been over a decade, but their parents will never forget. 59 boys massacred in their school in Yobe State, February 2014. And somewhere in Yobe today, parents are still watching their sons' age mates grow up, graduate, perhaps even marry, have their own children. But their child never got that chance. There's no word for that kind of pain. Or think about the 3-year-old among the children taken from an Islamic school in Niger State in 2021. Or the children taken from Owerri or your states, some of them toddlers themselves. What does it do to a child at that age to witness that beating, that starvation, in some documented cases, even rape, the torture these criminals subject their captives to? If that child makes it home, they carry that for life, possibly permanently. So let's review the kidnapping incident timeline. To set the scene, let's remind ourselves where we are coming from to understand where we are today, and perhaps plans for a future where these incidents will never happen again. Every one of these 24 incidents deserves its own story, and every family behind them deserves to be heard. But for now, I want you to just take this in for a moment. Since 2014, 24 major incidents across Nigeria, over 2,424 children and staff taken, and about 70 lives lost during the process. The key takeaway from this timeline, let's look at the pattern over the years, the pattern that we are not acting on. So here's what matters more, or perhaps the pattern that jumps to you when you look at all this time and all these incidents. The first one there is nearly every attack happened in rural or hard-to-reach communities. The second one is most of the incident locations are without security presence, except the case of Kebbi State, where security personnel were withdrawn hours before the attack. And the third one, based on field reporting and survivors' account, the men carrying out these attacks are overwhelmingly young, not aging warlords. So this is not a mystery anymore. We have years of data telling us where these attacks happened and increasingly who is committing them. So the real question is, why does this keep happening? Moving on to the root causes. Why does this pattern hold? Why does it keep happening? In my opinion, it comes down to three things. The first one is security and institutional weaknesses. There are not enough boots on the ground in the rural areas where these attacks happen. I cannot emphasize that enough. But behind that is the corruption piece. Because this gets personal for every parent watching. After Chibok, government, business leaders, and international partners set up the Safe School Initiative, a wonderful initiative. On paper, yes, it is. Over $30 million in seed funding, plus a national plan in 2023 to 2026, proposing over 144 billion naira more. So 15 billion naira was released in 2023 alone. That was splitted across multiple security agencies and Ministry of Education. And yet, schools kept getting attacked. In December 2025, the Senate's probes, they started a probe on the Safe School Initiative. The probe is still ongoing. There's no conclusion yet. However, 42,000 schools are still not fenced, while our kids are still taken from the classrooms. Number two, the justice system. We operate in a low-risk environment for criminals when the odds of getting caught or prosecuted and punished are low. Crime thrives. At a justice system that moves at the speed of a snail, a justice delay becomes a justice denied, which is basically telling the next kidnapper the math is basically still on his favor. Number three, which is very, very important, economic drivers, unemployment and poverty. See, unemployment and poverty create a pool of idle and desperate young men, recruitable as fighters, informants, or foot soldiers. The security report and survivors have repeatedly maintained that most of these kidnappers are from the Fulani tribe. And that is the truth without a doubt. But it's also important to mention that there are also confirmed cases of non-Fulani kidnappers, like the school kidnapping in Lagos and Ogun State in 2016 and 2017. Where do you think the kidnappers are from? As you can see, Babington in Lagos. Where do you think they are from? Ogun State. Where do you think they are from? The point here is our focus should not only be on Fulani, so the solution has to be holistic and broad, not aimed at one group. This is profit-driven crime, not an ethnic or religious agenda. These gangs, these bandits, are after ransom, not identity. And even the Fulani communities are themselves frequent victims. This is not a Fulani problem, a northern problem, or a Muslim problem. No, it's not. It's not. It's basically a Nigerian problem. And painting it otherwise only helps the criminals, because a divided country is easier to terrorize. Let us solution enough of the problems and issues. Before I start, I will start with the federal government. But before I start the points that I have, I need to chip in something about political will. What I mean by political will is that one of the biggest triggers of insecurity has been the farmer elder crisis. And cattle grazing over farmland has cost thousands of lives across the Middle Belt and beyond. Why in 2026? Why is open grazing still not a federal crime? Somebody should help me to just answer that. 17 southern states plus Benue and Taraba, they all have anti-grazing laws, but enforcement of course is weak. And at the federal level, oh, it's confusion. In November 2025, there were reports of a nationwide ban classifying open grazing as a capital offense. Within days, the Ministry of Livestock and Development walked it back, insisting it's only a gradual transition to ranching. Does that look like a political will, my people? Basically, criminalize open grazing fully and enforce it. Anybody found grazing cattle on another person's farmland should be treated as a criminal, full stop. That is a government that is finally doing its most basic job, securing every part of the country. From there, of course, we move to more boots on the ground in the rural areas. The data points to that. We all know that. My recommendation: deploy police to rural areas with none and recruit directly from the communities being protected. If possible, nobody defends a village other than the people who live in it. In developed countries, they call it community policing. But I'm not keen about nomenclature. The goal is every rural areas where there is a school is policed. This is what I mean. I didn't mean that we should have police officers stationed in front of the school and that's all. No, because that's just what, one or two police officers in front of the school. They will become an easy target for these bandits. They come in numbers, right? But what I mean is that the entire community, they have sufficient number of police officers so that when bandits come around to that community, they know that they are expecting equal or greater force. In the security professionals, they call it mutually assured deterrence. Because there's going to be like fire for fire. We call it in the local parlance, fire for fire. It's not like, oh, it's easy. Nobody is there to stop them. The police officers will not be at the station now. We need to change the modus operandi. Not like, okay, perhaps even if you have sufficient number of police officers and you just, let's say, put them all across the station. No. Of course, station becomes an easy target also. You've seen a lot of attacks on police stations. Decentralize them. You can still have a police station, but they should not all aggregate in a police station. Decentralize them. It becomes a more challenging environment for these terrorists, these bandits to come around and attack them because they don't even know. They don't even see them. It's like, we call it one mama po. That becomes more challenging terrain for them to operate. It's called deterrence. They will now have to think twice before they could attack such a community because they don't know who has a gun, who can fire on them. Now, that is one. Just in case they're overwhelmed, we also need to plan for a rapid response squad for contingency. So in the event of an attack, that these guys still dare the devil and come around, and the police officers are overwhelmed, there should be a process in place where they could easily call and backup can come in no time. And those are the processes the police has to put in place. Now, if the question in your mind is, where will we get this money for all this? Here's the uncomfortable truth I will tell you, my people. None of this is expensive because Nigeria is poor. It's expensive because what's already been stolen from us. What you have on your screen is a clip from Tantita Security Services testimony before the National Assembly, provided by the Baramoto Voice TV on YouTube. Now, I'm not here in support or against Tantita. That's not the point I want to make here. The point is, we have huge amount of illegal bunkering and oil theft operations in the Niger Delta. That's our real wealth. Oil leaving this country through illegal channels every single day. The money meant for police, the money meant for our courts, our schools, our youths, they're all gone. It's all been diverted. We are not a poor country. We are a badly managed rich one. I repeat, we are not a poor country. We are a badly managed rich country. Here's a question worth sitting with. Those perpetrators in the video, in this screenshot, as you can see, from Baramoto Voice TV, it's on YouTube. You can go check them out. Will you be surprised if they are still walking freely? What's your guess? Your guess is as good as mine. What does it tell us about deterrence if operations like this can still be running? You've heard of illegal bunkering for years, for decades, and it's still happening till date. See this analogy. It's about deterrence. If Mama Timipre saw that Mama Chibuzo got a life sentence for illegal bunkering, Mama Timipre was thinking of joining that business herself. She would tell our friend Mama Adiola that that line of work is a no-go area. Crime thrives when the risk is low. Restructure the security agency with overlapping duties. NSCDC, EFCC, ICPC, VIO, FRSC, and others doing pieces of the same job with no coordination. Credit to the president for this. A committee has already been set up for exactly this. But we've seen this committee after committees with no real outcome. This time has to be different. By the way, how far is the compliance to the directive of the president on the withdrawal of police officers from VIPs? Send me photos if you see any VIP with one in the comment section. And finally, moving on to the court. We need to have special courts, fast-tracked for insecurity and corruption cases only, with swift judgment and capital punishment for the guilty. Why? Because we are making a society a high-risk environment where criminals know that engaging in criminality carries severe consequences. Kudos to the president, to the Senate. In December 2025, they moved to classify kidnapping and hostage taking as terrorism, with mandatory death penalty for offenders and their enablers, their financiers, informants, logistic providers. The bill is still moving through committee as of this recording. But one of the strongest legislative moves we've seen on this issue in years. By the way, I will have a separate video on corruption. Watch out for that. Now, the third pillar would be the job creation. As I said, we have hundreds of thousands of graduates, vocationally skilled hands, and young people bursting with talents, but no enabling environment to put any of it into use. That's a ticking time bomb waiting to explode. I will dedicate a full video for this specific topic, so I will not go too much deep into this now, but it actually belongs here. So let's move on to the press. The press has a job too. Wide dissemination, radio in local languages, TV telecasting judgments, print publishing convictions. This must be a deliberate process, warning citizens there's high risks for criminals, so potential recruits back off. Deterrence doesn't work if nobody hears about the punishment. Moving to the state government. State government carry a massive piece of this. Giving young people better options than banditry, starting with education. Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children anywhere in the world. The UNICEF puts it at 18.3 million. Education has to be genuinely accessible and affordable. What are the specific things the state government are doing to reduce this figure? Well, kudos to NELFund from the federal government. What are the state governments doing? Not every child will follow the school route. We all know that. That's fine. That's okay. If the alternative is real, vocational skills acquisition institutions, early discovery of talent in science, in arts or sports. Think of Jelani Aliyu, born in Kaduna, raised in Sokoto, who went on to design the Chevrolet Volt at General Motors in the United States. Think of the teenager Zadok Yahona, who recently signed for the Premier League side, Brighton. There are many more like them across the north today. Will this government, the state government, give them the enabling environment to strive, or lose them to idleness and eventually recruitment by these criminals we are discussing? And for the children who already drifted into idleness, they're not in school, they're not learning a trade, they're not pursuing whatever talent they might have. Properly funded state-run counseling and rehabilitation agencies to bring them back. So let's talk about religious and community leaders now. They're also very, very important. Religious and community leaders shape value, we all know that. Speaking against crime and corruption, and a direct word to these religious voices on all sides. Please, don't use your platform to frame this crisis as an attempt to make this country a Muslim nation. That narrative is exactly what these criminals want. A divided country that can't unite to fight back. Do you know that the Quran itself, chapter 5, verse 32, you can Google it, teaches that taking one innocent life is treated as though all humanity had been killed, and saving one is treated as though all humanity had been saved. So whatever these criminals claim to be, their actions place them outside the teaching. And if you still think this is about stopping Western education, explain the 80 Islamic school students kidnapped in Castina in December 2020. Explain the 15 students kidnapped in March 2024 from the Quranic school in Sokoto. Divide and conquer only works if we let it. Moving on to the parents. Parents are the first line of defense. Instilling disciplines and values at home, keeping children in school or learning a skill, and reporting idleness. Very, very important. It's important that parents report idleness, which is strictly for counseling. It could be formal counseling or informal counseling, but they need help. Help needs to get to this child. Early reporting means early intervention. Because when you deter a crime, you deliver justice, you create an opportunity, you build a secure nation. Break one of these links and the whole thing fall. It all fail. Which proves again that this is a systemic problem. I'll move to the best practices now. Let's look at what actually worked elsewhere. The best practices across the world. Intelligence-led anti-kidnapping units. Colombia built Guala specialized team running surveillance, informants, and data analysis. Kidnappings there are down 92% since 2000, according to Colombia police. Technology integration. Countries like India and Brazil expanded their CCTV and digital tracking to locate suspects and victims faster. And here, where I have to ask a harder question. Why does it take weeks, sometimes months, before Nigeria deploys a rescue team? We already have the technical capacity to track communications. What we don't have is a standing, dedicated, tactical unit trained and equipped specifically for kidnap, for ransom cases, ready to move in within hours of an abduction, within hours, not weeks after public pressure builds. Every day that gap exists, it's a day that favors the kidnapper, not the victim. Community policing in Kenya linked into local intelligence and corporations, cutting kidnapping incidents significantly in the areas where it was applied. Rapid response systems. The US and the South Africa built dedicated response units with a strong recovery rates once an adoption is confirmed. I had a National Economic Council chaired by the Vice President approved 112 as a Nigerian's unified national emergency number, with a committee set up to drive it. Let's hope this one actually delivers. Territorial control. Colombia again, securing rural areas directly to deny kidnappers safe corridors. But here's something that has to be said plainly. On July 10th, 2026, 44 pupils and teachers were finally rescued after 56 days in captivity in Owerri, Oyo State. Real credits to the security agencies for their operations, to the presidency. No family should ever have to wait 56 days. But they came home. But here's what almost nobody's talking about. Those Oyo children were taken on May 15th, 2026. That same day, May 15th, 42 children were taken from a school in Musa, Borno State. It has now been over 2 months. No ransom demand, no claim of responsibility, no rescue. Their parents are still waiting for any information at all. I want you to sit with that for a second. One case gets presidential statement, a handover ceremony, and national headlines. The other, from the exact same day, has gone almost silent. There is no Nigerian who is more Nigerian than any other Nigerian. A child in Musa deserves the same exact national urgency as a child in Orire. Not because one region has more public outcry, but because they are all ours. So to wrap up, let's bring up back the word from the beginning. System. Interconnected, interdependent parts working together as a whole, where a failure in one affects the other. Weak security presence enables the kidnapping. A slow, low-risk justice system fails to deter it. Corruption drains the exact funds meant to prevent it. Poverty supplies the manpower for it. And fixing it requires every single stakeholder: the federal government, the state government, the press, the religious and community leaders, and the parents, each playing a distinct role. If you remove any of them and the whole system weakens, that's the definition of a systemic problem. Not a single villain, not a single fix, not a single hero, a system. 24 incidents, 2,424 children and staffs taken, 70 lives lost. That is the cost of a broken system. If this analysis gave you clarity, subscribe to this channel, like the video, share it until it reaches the eyes and ears of our leaders and every Nigerian. Together, we can make the change. Nigerian Ninja Vibes. Real talk, real solutions for every Nigerian. I'll see you in the next one. One love.